Recently, McDonald's came out with their limited time only gold sauce, and there's a lot of buzz about it. I would say the very most common thing I've heard people say about it is that it tastes identical to Chick Fil-A's signature sauce. After hearing that same comparison over and over again from many food reviewers, I felt it necessary to do a controlled experiment here and have the two sauces side by side, do a little bit of a blind test, and see do they taste any bit different whatsoever. For starters, I encourage you to pause the video here to look at the two sauces side by side so you can see the ingredient list, but as a summary, I will say they are mostly the same. There are some very small differences. Getting into some of the superficial differences as we look at the sauces themselves, you can see that the McDonald's gold sauce in the black container has some red colored speckles in there, so can we expect more of a spice content in its flavor? Whereas the Chick-fil-A has more of a uniform sort of creamy color. Other than the gold sauce having those red speckles, the base color of both of the sauces is darn near identical if you ask me. Now, as we get into actually tasting and sampling these sauces, I thought it was important to try and remove as much bias as possible in the process, so we're not actually going to sample the sauces with any of the signature products from each restaurant that you might dip in the sauces, like chicken tenders or fries or anything that you might get from McDonald's or Chick-fil-A. We're going to try the sauces on their own. I'm just dipping 2 separate spoons and taking a little taste test off of each spoon. In between, I'm doing a little bit of a palate cleanser so that I don't have residual content of the other sauce on my mouth. One further test we will do is use what I consider to be a neutral dipping agent in plain baby carrots to dip into the sauce and just sort of judge how they enhance the flavor of the carrot overall in rating the sauces. So now comes the moment of truth. Are these identical in terms of their flavor? Can I tell the difference between the two? Let's go in for a taste of each. From both of these sauces, I will say up front that you get a strong honey mustard reminiscence. I do notice some subtle differences, however. The McDonald's gold sauce to me has the more acidic flavor of the two. There's slightly more of a sort of sharp bite to it that cuts through that honey mustard flavor. There is a little bit more of a creaminess, almost a mayo reminiscence to the Chick-fil-A sauce. I wouldn't have really picked up on it had I not had them side by side, but I do notice the difference. Both of these flavor distinctions become a little bit more apparent with that neutral flavor agent in the carrot. I definitely notice more of that sharp acidic bite from the McDonald's gold sauce, whereas that creaminess of the Chick-fil-A sauce comes out more with the baby carrot. If I had to rate overall which one I enjoy more, I would actually give the edge to the McDonald's gold sauce. I think both sauces are good, but the McDonald's gold sauce has a little bit more of a complexity to it because of that sharp, vinegar reminiscent acidity. But if you're someone who prefers a little bit more of that creamy profile, you'll probably prefer the Chick-fil-A sauce. But that's my 2 cents on which of the two I actually like better. Since I did identify some small differences, I wanted to see if that was just in my head because I had read that the ingredients were slightly different in some instances. So I did a blind taste test to see if I could differentiate between the two. You'll see that I marked 2 different forks with 2 different colors on the bottom and dipped one of them into each of the sauces. I then closed my eyes, had a friend off camera shift the forks around, and then I opened my eyes, the forks were turned upside down, and I blindly picked each fork to test the sauces without knowing which one was which. Without a question, I was able to identify each sauce distinctly. The Chick-fil-A sauce had the much more creamy profile, whereas that cutting acidity came through on the McDonald's gold sauce. This confirmed to me that the differences I was noticing between the two sauces did really exist and was not just some sort of placebo effect I was experiencing. So that answers the question of is there a difference between the McDonald's gold sauce and the Chick-fil-A signature sauce? To me, yes, there is a difference. It is subtle, but when you have the two side by side, you can notice some differences. One final assessment I made of each of these sauces was actually trying them with the signature chicken tenders that each restaurant serves. Now, I didn't want to use this in my overall analysis of the two sauces because better chicken tenders will probably taste better and make a sauce taste better. But I wanted to see how each of the respective sauces combines with a potential dipping agent that you would get from the restaurant itself. I will say I did not enjoy the McDonald's McCrispy strips whatsoever. I'm not sure if I got a bad batch, but there was this really disgusting oil flavor that lingered on the tongue when I dipped them in the gold sauce. I'm not sure if they were prepared in old oil or if there's something to be said about that acidity of the McDonald's gold sauce itself, bringing out some undesirable flavors when combined with the oils and greases you get in the frying process and preparation process of making the McCrispy strips. Overall, the Chick Fil-A chicken strips were far superior as chicken strips themselves, and dipped in the sauce, there was not that unpleasant flavor at all. Maybe the Chick Fil-A I went to had fresher oil, but there was no unpleasant aftertaste. So overall, the experience of chicken strips plus sauce was better at Chick Fil-A, even though I enjoyed the McDonald's gold sauce more as a standalone. With all of that said, that is going to take us to the conclusion of this video. I hope you found this one fun, informative, and interesting, and I encourage you to try both of these sauces out yourself. Let me know your findings. Do you have a preference between one or the other? Do you notice the subtle differences in flavor that I'm pointing out here, or do you think they taste completely identical? They're very darn close, but again, in my experience, there is some subtle differences to take in. With all that said, thanks for tuning in, y'all. I look forward to chatting in the comments as always, and I'll see you guys in the very next video. Peace.